everyone. Welcome to Women's Health on the Go live Facebook show on Monday night. Tonight, we're going to be talking about making babies. We're going to be talking about fertility, our cycles, what's going on in our body, what can cause problems with us getting pregnant, and how we can kind of start from the basics and get that going and get ourselves pregnant if we want to. My name is Lori Faulkner. I'm part of Women's Health on the Go, where I educate and I help women learn about their bodies and learn about what's going on, talk about conventional options, and also holistic approaches to taking care of their bodies. So if you are an oldie but goodie, welcome back. If you're new, welcome. One thing that I absolutely love is I love engagement. I love when you say hello. I love when you ask questions. I love anything. So, sorry. I'm getting a little bit of a cough, a little bit of a cold, so I'm sorry about that. But please, and also, share this video. If you have a friend, tag them. We're going to be talking about fertility and cycles. So if you have a friend that's trying to get pregnant, tag them so that they can learn when's the best time, what's going on with their body. Sorry about that. All right, another cough drop. That's what cough drops are for, right, everybody? All right, so who's ready to learn how to make a baby? Woo! Very excited. So let's get started. Again, we're going to be talking about fertility, our cycle, what happens during ovulation, how to figure out when you're ovulating, what is the best time to get pregnant, and if you're having little problems, then we're going to talk about what conventionally they would do, and then holistic approaches as well. So Nancy, I'm glad that you had a wonderful turkey dinner. It was delicious, wonderful family. That's awesome. I think Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, so I'm happy that you enjoyed yours. Okay, as everyone knows, I start off with my show with my medical disclaimer. All material provided in this video is for information and educational purposes only. It's not intended to replace the substitute of healthcare from your healthcare provider. It's not meant to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any kind of disease. So make sure that you see your healthcare provider. I'm going to be talking about some herbal medicine and some essential oils at the end. So again, that's another thing of just saying that these statements in the video have not been evaluated by the FDA, and we are not making any medical claims at all, okay? The International Federation of Aromatherapists does not recommend the internal use of essential oils unless you're being taken care of under the guidance of a healthcare provider that is knowledgeable and certified with essential oils / aromatherapy. And if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, if you're pregnant, you probably don't want to watch the show, but you may be breastfeeding. So please consult your medical provider before using any kind of herbs or essential oils. Okay, so what I want to start off with is a very important thing that I tell all of my patients who are trying to get pregnant. The most important thing that I believe is to have patience. It might not, for some people, they have to look at a guy and they get pregnant. Some people are very fertile. And other people, it takes a little bit of time. So have patience. Have patience with your body. Have patience with the process. Because sometimes it could take like anywhere from 6 to 12 months to become pregnant. So it's very, very important. Have patience with your body and have patience with the process. And most importantly, have fun. Have fun trying. Hello, it's sex we got to have in order to have a baby. Don't make it a stressful situation. I cannot begin to tell you how many women trying to get, they're like, we gotta get pregnant, and then they're going all crazy, and they're overwhelming themselves with the process. They're not getting pregnant. Finally, they'll say, you know what, forget it, screw it, I'm not gonna do it anymore. And guess what? As soon as they relax, as soon as they just go along with the flow of life, bam, they get pregnant. So I think that is, to start off, the most important thing to say on today's show. Be patient with your body and have lots of fun. Hello, people. It's sex. Ha! So make sure that you do those two things, okay? Now let's just talk a little bit about the menstrual cycle and what kind of goes on in the menstrual cycle. Now, I'm not going to go, we only got a 30-minute show, so we're not going to be going really way deep in there, okay? But I think it's important for us to have a little bit of an understanding of what's going on in our bodies during the menstrual cycle. Even though sometimes it's a little bit challenging to get pregnant, the whole process of the menstrual cycle and the whole thing that's going on in your body is your body wants to get pregnant. And there's lots of little things that are going on that are encouraging you to become pregnant. Our menstrual cycle is typically anywhere from 21 to 35 day cycle. And a menstrual cycle is from the first day of your period to the next month's first day of your period. So that is the time frame in between there. And that could be anywhere from 21 to 35 days. You can bleed for 2 days to 7 days. Everyone is different. If you're really young, it can take 5 to 7 years for your body. When you start having your period, your body's still trying to go like, oh, what's going on? I'm trying to adjust to what's going on here. So it can take a while for you to actually get on that good kind of cycle in your life, okay? Now, there's some hormones in the process, and there's 2 different phases. After you have your period, we have 2 phases called the follicular phase and the luteal phase. The follicular phase is that time right before ovulation, okay? What's going on in that body right before ovulation. And then the luteal phase is after ovulation, okay? Now, I do have some little pictures that I want to show you, okay? Let me just find them for a second. All right, let's see. I think, let's see. Hold on. Yeah, I got the right one. Woohoo! Okay. So this one I want to kind of just show you. This just goes over the kind of couple of different things, okay? Now, the first section, right, that's the blue section. That's called our follicular phase, okay? And you can see on the 3rd level down, you can see that has the estrogen and progesterone, okay? Your estrogen is high during the follicular phase and your progesterone is lower. Your estrogen is what helps build up your endometrial lining, okay? So you can see on the bottom, all the way on the bottom, is the endometrial lining kind of increasing in depth, okay? This is what I explain the endometrial lining like, because sometimes I have to explain to people when they have like an abnormal endometrial lining. So this is the way that I do it. Every month, what happens? Okay, let's start with your menstrual cycle. Let's just take your front yard, your backyard. You mow it because the grass has grown too much, so you mow it down. You have your period, okay? Your grass gets really leveled down, and then it starts growing again, okay? So during that follicular phase, the grass is growing in the lining, and I love using grass because grass is seed, it's green, it's growing. We're growing up, it's building up, so that you have a nice bed of grass for if you do get pregnant, when the egg meets the sperm and they come down to the lining inside your uterus and they implant to make a beautiful flower in your beautiful yard with your green grass, okay? So the green grass grows and grows and grows. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful lawn. If you plant that flower, perfect, right? That's a pregnancy. But if it doesn't, then then you got to cut the grass again to start all over again, and that's when we get our period. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense. It's, sometimes when I'm trying to explain things to people, I try to think of like things that are in our lives, to make it a little bit easier to understand. So that's what's happening. Okay, so let's go back to that picture. Okay, so again, in that blue phase, we have the lower, the 3rd one down. We got our estrogen is higher, the progesterone is lower. The estrogen is what helps build that lining, which you can see on the bottom level. You can see that endometrial lining is going up, and it's building that nice bed of grass so that you, hopefully, if you want to, get pregnant. All right? So also what's happening is you can see that middle, I call it like orange down the middle. That is ovulation right there, okay? So you can see there's a couple things. Your estrogen is going up, and as your estrogen keeps going up, it signals your brain, okay? you have a pituitary gland inside your head, and the pituitary gland, this rise in estrogen stimulates the pituitary gland to release on that top level your FSH and LH. You can see those peaks all the way up at the top, okay? Now, what those two hormones are, you have your FSH, which is your folliculating stimulating hormone, okay? It stimulates the hormones, the follicles, to develop into eggs so that hopefully that whole process will keep going and you'll become pregnant. It basically, your follicles will turn into a corpus luteum, and it'll stimulate your progesterone as well. I'm going to talk about progesterone in a minute. It's going to stimulate the progesterone, and hopefully the thought process is that you're going to get pregnant. Okay, and that LH, the luteinizing hormone, that actually stimulates ovulation to happen. Okay, so I'm hoping that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense, or because if I'm not making sense, there's no sense again. No sense of me doing that. So hopefully that makes sense. Hey Megan, how are you? Good. I'm so glad to see you. So let me know if that makes sense. Okay, so we're dealing with, we got progesterone and estrogen in the beginning of the cycle. The estrogen is higher because it's building that nice line of that bed of grass inside our uterus, which is really the endometrial lining, to hopefully plant that flower, to plant that baby in there, okay? And then right before ovulation, the estrogen kind of stimulates your pituitary gland inside your head to release two hormones, FSH and LH, and those LH stimulates ovulation, FSH stimulates the follicles to mature into corpus luteums to hopefully become pregnant, okay? So let's go back to the slide real quick, all right? Hopefully everything's making sense still, okay? So then after, you can kind of see, now if you look at that third one down, again, we're looking at the estrogen and progesterone, okay? After you have the ovulation, the estrogen kind of goes down, and then the progesterone starts going up, because progesterone actually helps maintain a pregnancy, okay? It keeps the lining in the uterus nice, and it keeps that bed of grass nice and thick for you to continue on the pregnancy. If you don't become pregnant, that progesterone drops, and with the loss of the estrogen, that's what stimulates your body to have a period, okay? That's what stimulates the lawn person to come in and cut that grass down, and so we could start afresh and possibly try next month, okay? So those are, that's the basics of what's kind of going on in your body every month to get pregnant. Now, what I want to also touch upon is these other little things that are going on in our body, which this is the stuff, to me, this is the cool stuff, okay? Now, one thing that your body's going to do is it's going to stimulate a higher, right before ovulation, there is things that your body is doing to totally get pregnant, to attract a mate, to get somebody to plant a seed in there, okay? One thing, your testosterone level will start to peak as well, right? Because testosterone is one of those hormones that gives us our sex drive. So we're like, oh my God, and you might not realize it, but when you're right before ovulation, some women will be like, ooh, I'm horny now, I want to get it on. Your testosterone level's going up to get you to feel that way, because your body wants you to mate with somebody in order to get pregnant. Another thing that you'll do is your moves will start being sexier. It was a great research they did. They did a research that they went to like a dance club or something, and they did it. They had like a green screen behind these girls, and they just said, "Hey, listen, all we want you to do is want to know when your last period was, and we want you to dance in front of this green screen." Okay, and they kind of figured out who was like around ovulation, who wasn't, and they found that women that were ovulating tended to feel sexier, their moves were sexier, because you don't realize it, but your body is trying to attract a mate. Another research that was done was talking about scent. You don't realize, but your body is also giving off a scent to attract a mate. Now, this may, to me, this is always intriguing, but what they actually did with this research is that they somehow simulated the odor of a woman during ovulation as compared to others, other times of the cycle. And they had men like kind of put this mask on or something. I don't know how it really worked. It was a little cuckoo on that part. But men were attracted to women who were ovulating. They didn't know they were ovulating, but apparently females give off a scent, just like animals do. They give off a scent to a potential mate. There was another research that was done, which was in regard to how females get like attracted to a mate. Now, this is not a little bit about ovulation, but this is also very interesting. What they did is they took a bunch of guys in white t-shirts, they had them jog, sweat up, get all, sweaty and gross. And then they took those t-shirts and they put them in these glass jars. And then they had women go and smell each of the jars. Some of them were related to some of the boys. And the girls were repulsed by their relatives, but attracted to the other people, which I thought was very, very interesting. That doesn't have to do with ovulation, but it's just amazing how our bodies are doing these things and we don't realize it. Another thing that's happening is that your cervix and your uterus actually, your uterus actually drops a little bit inside, okay? Your cervix, which is closed, it's opened up a little bit, because it wants to be able to get that sperm up there, and your discharge changes. And we're going to talk a little bit about the discharge that actually happens, because that's a really good indicator for you to know if you're ovulating or not. And, excuse me, there's a way to test it, but it's very sticky. I'm going to grab onto that sperm and I'm pulling it up because I want to get pregnant. You don't realize all this little stuff is going on, but the body is amazing, everyone. I love our bodies. I think they are so amazing, amazing. Okay, let's see. Where are we going now? So we did all that. Does that all make sense? Does everything make sense? Does anybody have any questions? I mean, of course, always, if you have any questions, make sure that you write them down. If you put question before sometimes the question, I can see it a little bit better. But even if you are watching this on the replay, please post your questions. I will definitely be able to see them after. Welcome, Shirley. It's so good to see you also here this evening as well. Okay, so let's talk about now. So now I think hopefully if I did a good job of explaining to you just a little bit of what's going on in our body every month, that's going to hopefully get us to get pregnant, okay? But how can you tell when is the best time for you to get pregnant? Well, there's a couple of ways to do it, or there's my simple way that I do. I tell all of my patients, because this one doesn't take a lot of, the only effort is that you do have to have sex. Okay, so typically, all right, if you're on an average of a 28-day cycle, typically the person's going to ovulate on day 13, 14, 15, 16, somewhere around there, okay? And if you love having sex all the time and you don't want to be like, oh, what's my discharge, what's my temperature, and all this kind of stuff that we're going to go into, then I usually typically say, all right, the first day, remember in the beginning I said, the first day of your cycle is the first day that you have bleeding of your period, okay? So if you count that day and you go to day, let's say, number 12, and you just start having sex every other day for at least a week, you're probably going to hit the time when you're ovulating. Now, why do I say every other day? Because if you don't have it, if you have it every day, which sometimes people tell me they are, and they don't understand why they're not getting pregnant, well, you're not getting pregnant because your partner is probably shooting blanks at this point, okay? A man has to replenish his sperm, okay? Even though every time he's, he ejaculates, he's going to have lots of sperm in there. But if you don't give enough time for it to occur, like if you're having sex every day, I guarantee he's going to be shooting blanks. So that's why I always say go to like day 12, start, and every other day have sex for at least a week. And then if you want to change it up, then next, because we don't know when you're ovulating, right? So hopefully, if you're just doing like, listen, I don't want to go through all this kind of stuff. I just want to have fun and see what happens. Then maybe at 1 month start at day 12, and then next month start at day 13, because we don't really know when you're ovulating, right? So we're just kind of winging it, okay? That is the simple way of doing it. Now, not to say that these next things that are not simple, but they take a little bit more of an effort, and they take a little bit more, work, okay? So there's a couple things we're going to talk about. One, we're going to talk about checking your vaginal secretions, okay? And you have to feel comfortable with that as well. Typically, when you're going to have your period, then you're going to have a white pasty, then you're going to have a clear, sticky egg white, then you're going to go back to a white pasty, and then you're going to get your period, okay? Now, that discharge, that egg white, clear, sticky, that is like, I'm about to ovulate, baby. That's what that is about, okay? And it's called spin barket, okay? So if you want to, what you can do is you take some of that discharge and you put it between your fingers and you kind of like stretch it out. And what will happen is you should get like a string of it. And if it like 6 to 10 centimeters, the longer it is, the more fertile the better the discharge is. It's really, really good, okay? So you definitely want to do that. And during that time too, now, of course, sometimes I've worked in practices where we were trying to help people and we would have them come in during that time. If you take that discharge and you put it like on a slide and you air it out and you look under a microscope, it has that, does everybody know what a fern plant is? Hopefully everybody does, but it looks like it has a fern kind of pattern on it. And there's actually, and I'm going to put what you want to call it, a link in the comments right now. You can actually, and I didn't know this, I just learned this not too long ago, that you can actually get a home small fertility. There we go. There's the link. It's a small fertility saliva microscope. So that's something that if you wanted to do that at home, you can totally do that. You can get the saliva kit and you can see if you're actually having that ferning process go on. Okay. Now the next thing you can do. Now this is a good thing. Now I'm sure everybody's heard about getting your body temperature. And that it's going to have a spike when you ovulate. Now this requires dedication. You have to every morning around the same time before you do any activity, before you get out of bed, you're going to take your temperature. Now because the fluctuation, if you're getting you can't get one of those old-fashioned mercury ones because that's too hard to read, right? But the digital ones. There's a couple of digitals I'm going to put. I have another thermometer that's all the way to 1/100th of or 1/10 of a decimal point. Because the more accurate you can with your temperature, then you can see that rise that's going in. I'm going to show you here. I'm going to show you another slide real quick. All right. So here, this is what. See, most people will chart. They get a chart. And you put your temperature on, and you're going to see that you have a spike around ovulation, which could, again, see, now this one is day 14. When are you going to ovulate? I don't know. I don't know how long your cycle is. This is based on a 28-day cycle. Not everybody's 28 days. So here, ovulation kind of occurred on day 14 because you had that spike up. So that's what you're going to kind of see. And you can see, if you look, that bottom number is 97.2, right? And then the temperature goes up to 97.9. So it's not like we're not talking from 97 to 100. There is a spike, but that's why you want to get a thermometer. You have to get a special thermometer that really can look at that decimal point, okay, to see. And you want to make sure that it's, again, you do it every day. You do it first thing in the morning. You do it before any activity. if you have a heated blanket or a heated waterbed or like a cooling system, it's going to mess up. So you have to make sure that you're just, blankets, normal bed kind of situation, because if you are in a heated, have a heated blanket or something like that, it's going to affect the temperature, or even if you have a heated waterbed, well, that's really nice, but that can affect it as well. Or if you have some kind of, like in the summer, if you have some kind of, I know that now they've got these beds that either keep you warm or keep you cool in the summer. They have all these fancy kind of stuff. So typically your temperature around that beginning, that follicular phase, is around 97, okay? And then right after ovulation, it's going to go spike up. So this is not something that you use by itself, okay? Because it's going to tell you that you ovulated, right? Which is good. If you're not sure if you're ovulating and you want to check to see if you're actually ovulating, then this is just a good indicator. But you want to do you want to check your vaginal secretions. You want to check your temperature as well. And I'm going to also talk about checking your cervix. That's the next thing that I'm going to talk about. But I'm going to put a link to a thermometer for you as well in the comments if you are looking to get a thermometer. So that will just show you what kind of thermometer as well that you're going to have to use for that. Okay, so is everything making sense so far, everybody? How are we doing? I mean, let me know if I'm not making sense. Again, I always tell people if it's not making sense, you got to tell me, because you know what? I don't know if it's not. I'm just going to keep babbling away. And the whole purpose of this is to make sure that you understand. And I'm trying to, educate you as much as I can. It's the basics. I only have 30 minutes, but I want to make sure that you understand everything. So please let me know if you have any questions or if something is not making sense. Okay? All right, so the last thing that we can do is do a cervical check. Now, this, again, is something that you have to be very comfortable with doing, because you got to be comfortable with sticking your finger, into your vagina and feeling for your cervix. What does your cervix feel like? It feels like your nose, okay? Your cervix, typically, most of your cycle is going to feel like your nose. It's going to be a little bit hard, and then it's also going to be closed, okay? What's going to happen around ovulation, it's going to get a little softer. It's going to open up a little bit. And if you really, really want to really gauge, as I said too, I don't know if I remember you saying before, but your uterus kind of drops down just a little bit. I mean, we're not talking from here to here kind of thing, but just kind of drops down a little bit. Your cervix softens a little bit. It opens a little bit, because it just wants to get that sperm in there. It wants to get pregnant. Okay, so there's all these little things that could be, or is going on in your body. So some people actually measure, like, they can measure somehow, like, okay, this is how far, my cervix is up. Oh, look, I can feel that it's definitely gotten down a little bit. So there's all these little indicators that can tell you when you're about to ovulate. So doing a cervical check, checking your mucus, those are things that are being like, okay, here we go, got to start having sex, and getting that temperature and doing that will tell you if you have ovulated. Because sometimes when people start to come and they're like going, oh, I haven't gotten pregnant yet. I said, well, what have you done to actually check? Typically we try to, do everything with the basics, okay? What have you done to check, if you're actually ovulating? And then they actually have ovulation kits that you can get over the counter, which is just peeing on a stick every day. They give you a whole bunch of them, which you do as well. That's another easy, but that tends to be a little bit more expensive as compared to just buying a thermometer for every month and, checking your secretions and checking your cervix. So those are things that are going to tell you when you're ovulating. Now, if you're trying to get really precise, like I told you, start on day 12, start having sex every other day for a week. If you don't want to do that and you want to get a little bit more confined to the time of ovulation, then, you can totally do that. I would definitely have like sex every other day for like 3 days, maybe 4, like 3 or 4 times, let's put it that way, so that you can get it. I don't know. To me, why don't you just do it every other day for a week and have fun with it and not worry about all this stuff? But, that's totally up to you. But those are the things that will tell us if you're ovulating. Now, there's lots of things that unfortunately can be going on in our body that can make it more challenging for us to get pregnant, okay? One is irregular periods. There's fibroids, which are very benign growths in the uterus. There's ovarian cysts. There's what we call PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which I hate that name because it doesn't necessarily mean you have cysts on your ovaries. I always just tell people it means that your hormones, all your hormones inside, they're just not working right. I mean, that's the easiest way to kind of explain that. But there's PCOS, there's endometriosis, there's if you're breastfeeding, if you have an eating disorder, if you're really thin, you're going to have irregular, if you're really, heavy and overweight, you can have issues. Certain medications. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is that, if you're taking some kind of birth control, even birth control pills, okay, and suppose I'm taking birth control pills and, me and my man go, oh, maybe we should go off, like, let's get pregnant, which is great. Sometimes, because what birth control pills do is it kind of stops you from ovulating and everything. It just kind of stops it. And sometimes when we come off of birth control, depending on what type of birth control, you going back to ovulating on your own does not happen overnight. And it's a process to get you back on track. So even, birth control, as much as it's great, because we don't get pregnant because that's the purpose of them, sometimes they can mess up our system. So, and then there's even, there's certain psychiatric medications that can cause problems with fertility. There's thyroid medication. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of medication that can actually cause us to have difficulty in getting pregnant. Environmental issue like hormones. I mean, it's all out there, right? You have these plastics, they got hormones, they're endocrine disruptors, they're screwing up our whole system. That can definitely screw it up. Stress. Okay, remember in the beginning of what I said, if you want to get pregnant, don't think about it. Just have lots of fun doing it. So many times people say to me, I'm trying to get pregnant, I'm doing all this, I'm doing all that, and, and they're not getting pregnant, and then they give up. They go, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to get pregnant anymore. And that's when they get pregnant. Stress causes so many medical issues. And I know this world is a very stressful world. I totally get that, everyone. So I know it can be very stressful to live in this world these days, and it's very hard to get rid of stress, but stress can definitely affect that. And of course, we're talking about female stuff. There are male factors, things that could be going on with men as well that can cause problems with getting pregnant. So whenever someone is coming to us, or coming to a healthcare provider, typically it's one of the things that you want to kind of, do is also get your partner tested and checked out as well. So hopefully that all makes sense. All right. Hello, Mary Ellen. Welcome. Welcome, Matt. Welcome, Amy. I hope everyone's doing well. We're talking about getting pregnant and all the fun things we got to do in order to get there. So what we're going to be talking about next is what do we do? Okay, so we've gone through the menstrual cycle and what's going on in our bodies. We've gone through how do we figure out when we're ovulating and when is the best time to, have fun in order to get pregnant. And then we just touched on a whole bunch of different things that can cause problems with us getting pregnant. So if we've been trying to get pregnant and it's not happening, what do we do? Well, technically, in the medical world that we'll talk about it, people who don't get pregnant, if they tried for a year, typically at that point, that's when medical people go in, all right, let's all do the whole workup. Okay, so that's typically when if someone just came to me and they've been trying for 2 months, I'm going to go back to that drawing board that I just I went over everything with you. Okay, let's figure out if you're ovulating. Let's figure out, when are you having sex? That's typically where we're going to start off with. But once you get to the point where nothing's working, or you find out that you do an ovulation kit, or you're finding out like you're not ovulating, then you definitely need to go to some kind of healthcare provider, depending on what avenue you want to take. Now, if you're having irregular periods, then that is something that you would definitely go to your gynecologist, or sometimes people go directly to an infertility specialist, because we need to figure out what is causing you to have irregular periods and causing you not to ovulate. Now, if you have fibroids, sometimes that can, like we talked about fibroids, that's something that you need to talk to your healthcare provider, because depending on the type of fibroid and where they are, sometimes people want to have them surgically removed to help probably the chances of getting pregnant. Okay, and then let's see, what about talk about? Then there's lots of little. If you're overweight, then we got to talk about like exercise and nutrition. One of the number one treatment options for people with what we call the PCOS, which I mentioned, because a lot of people with POS have extra, I call it extra cushioning. The number one thing that actually helps them to get back on track is weight loss. So if you are overweight, it's really good to get on nutrition, exercise to lose that weight. Sometimes if you exercise too much and you're underweight, that can also cause you issues. Now, whether that is if you've had some kind of eating disorder, you definitely need to speak to your healthcare provider, and also, maybe a therapist to, help you overcome that. And that would be really important as well. If you're taking certain medications and you're trying to get pregnant, I always tell people, listen, if you think you're like, listen, I definitely want to get pregnant this year, and you're taking medications, whoever prescribes that medication to you, you should talk to them and tell them, hey, listen, I'm thinking about getting pregnant and I'm taking these medications, because some medications are no bueno when you get pregnant, okay? There's different categories of drugs. There's category B drugs, which, up to B is okay. Oh, excuse me. But once we go beyond that, then it's sometimes weighing the risk versus the benefits, and sometimes they can cause a lot of problems with if you do get pregnant with your unborn child, with the fetus. So you usually sometimes you can change your medication to something that's not as I can't think of the word. Oh my goodness. That could be dangerous. Okay, let's just put it that way. I know the word that's in there, it's on the tip of my tongue. I just can't think of the word right now, but it could be dangerous. So sometimes they can change you to something. So definitely, if you do become pregnant, or you're thinking about becoming pregnant, make sure if you're taking any kind of medication that you do speak to your healthcare provider and let them know, so that they can look them up and, look them up and actually see if you should be taking them or not. Okay? But when it comes to irregular periods sometimes, okay, I'm sorry, I just pushed something and everything just kind of changed in my thing. Sorry about that. Irregular periods can be possibly easily to fix, but it might not be fixed overnight, because we have to make some lifestyle changes, and I'm going to talk about some herbs that you can do, and some essential oils that can help. But even if it's conventional, I'm going to talk about conventional, okay? But where I'm going to start is, and I do this with everything I discuss, I always talk about going back to the basics. And what are they, everybody? Nutrition. Nutrition is very, very important in everything. So if really needing to look at your diet, trying to stay away from anti-inflammatory foods like red meat and dairy products, going to like a non-inflammatory diet, such as eating like flaxseed, fruits, vegetables, omegas like salmon, tuna, getting your omegas in there. That is one, very important. Definitely getting into that. Exercise. Exercise is really, really important. We need to get out there. And actually, I think it's my friend Millie. I think she says it's just getting moving. Just get out there and start moving. you know, because sometimes exercise, I know even for me, is like, oh God, exercise. But getting out there and moving, even if it's just every day for a walk for 20 minutes, getting active, getting moving. Stress reduction, all right? Stress reduction, very, very important. We all live in a stressful world, right? And stress can cause not even problems with getting pregnant, but it can cause lots of different medical problems. So you want to make sure that you do try to find something for stress reduction. Yoga, going for a walk, reading, you know, a book, doing some meditation, something to help reduce stress. That's another thing that's really, really important, okay? And of course, no smoking cigarettes, because smoking cigarettes is no good. But as you know, with every one of the medical shows I do and every medical condition I talk about, I'm always talking about just going back to the basics. Nutrition, exercise, stress reduction, and I forgot sleep. Sleep is very, very important, okay? I think, let's see, it was a couple shows ago I had Millie on the pillars of life, and one of those pillars was sleep and how important it is. It's very, very important. So if you're trying to get pregnant, just start off with those basics, because you know what? No matter what, it's going to be good for your overall health, okay? Nutrition, exercise, stress reduction, and sleep. Bam, right there. Definitely try those things, okay? If you are, if you're overweight, then make sure that you do the exercise and nutrition, because losing weight is going to help as well. Now, when it comes conventional, typically if you go to your healthcare provider, which most of your like OBGYN kind of doctors, they'll start off with the kind of basics, right? And they'll look at, they'll get blood work, they'll do it at a certain time of your cycle, and then they'll figure out whether you're, ovulating or not. Then they may do, depending on your situation, some, especially if you have like PCOS, sometimes they give you what's called metformin, which is a medication for diabetics, but PCOS can involve insulin resistance. So sometimes if they give you metformin, after a couple cycles, you'll start getting your cycles regularly, and then you'll also start ovulating. And then sometimes they just start off with doing some Clomid, which will help stimulate ovulation as well. That is conventional. Typically, that's where your OBGYN is going to start off with, right? But anything beyond that, which is even beyond like kind of what, because I do OBGYN. So you get to a certain point, and then you say, bye-bye, you're going to the fertility specialist. And then the fertility specialist has lots of other stuff that they can do that's way beyond this conversation, okay? But basically that's, I'm sorry, I got an itchy collarbone today, so I keep scratching that. But those are basically the conventional. Now, if you want that holistic kind of approach, again, I told you the stuff, just the basics, nutrition, exercise, sleep, okay? But a couple of good things, acupuncture, okay? I love acupuncture. Acupuncture is so wonderful for fertility help. There are some acupuncturists out there that just, they love focusing, and they're really, really have a focus for women's health and for fertility. So if you are having issues, then I think you should definitely look for a local acupuncturist that can help you, and ask them, do you deal with women's health issues, having problems getting pregnant? Acupuncture. I think acupuncture is wonderful for a lot of things, but definitely look into acupuncture. When we think about herbal medicine, some things that we can do basically is herbal infusions is one thing. Now, herbal infusions, I know that I've talked about them before. What herbal infusions are just really, 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 really strong teas, okay? I will put a link of my herbal infusion video. I've done that for a couple of times, but I'll put that up in the comments. Let me just make a note. Herbal infusions. And it's just taking a mason jar. I usually do it at nighttime before I go to bed, and you take, it's not like a tea bag. It's more than a tea bag. Hold on a second. It's more than a tea bag, and you're going to actually let it sit all night. And it's going to take in a lot of the nutritional values and the medicinal properties of that herb out of there. And in the morning, you strain it and you drink that. Some good herbal infusions for this is linden leaves. Linden leaves are really great anti-inflammatory. A lot of the times we have inflammation in our body, and that's going to help decrease inflammation. Oat straw. Oat straw is great for increasing your libido, increasing your testosterone. It's great for anxiety, and also there's lots even for depression and stuff like that if you have that. But if you have a lot of anxiety about getting pregnant, and you're like kind of, oh my God, I got to get pregnant. Sorry, oat straw is wonderful, and it will really help. It's a very mild herb. I love oat straw. It's very mild and it tastes really, really good. And like I said, it increases your sexual desire. It increases your testosterone. It's very good for anxiety, and it's a very calming herb. Linden leaves decreases inflammation in the body. Stinging nettle is just overall good for your immune system, and just helping with your liver, which we're going to talk about. There's like different herbs that you want to do, and it's not just maintaining your hormone balance, but also making sure like your liver is functioning correctly, so that there's no extra like hormones like estrogen circulating, like your body is excreting everything, toxins and everything properly from your body. And stinging nettle is one of those things that is going to help with that. Speaking of liver health, if you're going to do like herbs, there's 2 herbs that are great to make sure the liver is functioning appropriately. Milk thistle and dandelion. Yes, dandelion. Anybody who is trying to kill those weeds in the summer and the spring, don't kill them, pick them. They're wonderful. If you don't use any kind of pesticides on your yard, dandelion is awesome. It's a great liver detoxer. It helps your liver to function. So please bless those what we call weeds and actually use them. So you want to make sure that your liver is functioning appropriately and excreting any toxins, any extra circulating hormones that don't need to be in our body. Because if you have too much estrogen compared to your progesterone, it's not. Remember, we need progesterone. Progesterone helps keep our pregnancy maintained. It helps maintain the pregnancy. And if we have too much estrogen in our body, the progesterone's never gonna go over, and you're not gonna be able to get pregnant. It's just not gonna happen. So you want to make sure that your body is excreting those kind of hormones. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense, everybody. Hopefully I'm making sense. Okay. There's some other herbs that kind of help with regulating our hormones, help with testosterone, with your ovary function. Things like saw palmetto is good. Wild yam is good. Chasteberry is one of the best. It's called chasteberry, or sometimes people call it Vitex. That tends to be my number one that I tell people to do. It just restores our hormones, just kind of overall hormone health in our body. Now, if you're going to do like a tincture, you can do like a dropper full, like 3 times a day. That's a really good way to do that. Then there's also another herb called maca. Now, maca is really, a lot of people know about maca, knowing that it's for PCOS, for fertility and stuff. I forget where it's native to. I can't remember where it is. But a lot of people use maca as well to help regulate your hormones. Now, another thing to do to add to your regime, definitely add the herbal infusions, right? And then another thing to add to your regime, whether you're trying to get pregnant or not, to be honest with you, is an adaptogen. Now, adaptogen herbs, the way that they work on our body is that they don't work on one certain thing. Chasteberry, the one I just discussed, kind of works particularly on your hormones and regulating your hormones, okay? Where an adaptogen just works on overall balancing your whole body. Okay, now some adaptogens kind of help a little bit more with certain things, but for the most part, adaptogens just help overall, kind of help overall health. Okay, they're not like, oh, this herb is working on your heart, or this herb is working for your reproductive glands, or this one's helping with your lungs. It doesn't. This just works overall in your whole body. Okay, and some good adaptogens is ashwagandha. Um, they're good for your sex drive. Okay, and if you typical kind of dosages, you're going to have capsules around 400 or 500 milligrams. You're going to take them about twice a day. Rhodiola is another great herb. It's good for if you don't get your period. It helps increases your fertility. It's going to help you with any hormone imbalance, and you can take, like tablet-wise, you can take 2 to 4 a day. That's a round average. Now remember, when it comes to herbal medicine, one, you want to make sure that you talk to somebody that understands herbs, that goes over all of your medical conditions, okay? Because I'm just talking about fertility, general health people, okay? Not taking any medication. Herbs can interact with medications. They can interact with medical conditions. So make sure I'm giving you general kind of guidelines here, but make sure that you speak to someone or do much thorough research on this stuff prior to implementing them in your life. Okay? Okay. Black cohosh. A lot of us know black cohosh for what? Hello, menopause. But sometimes it also can help for ovarian inefficiency and for like polycystic ovarian and for estrogen imbalance. So that's another herb that you can use as well. When it comes to essential oils, I think I love essential oils. I think they work in a lot of great, wonderful things. But they're more like, I think, supportive. I think all of these things, even herbal medicine is supportive. Acupuncture is supportive. You have to still go back to those basics. You have to go back to the basics of nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress reduction. Okay, so go back to those basics, okay, and then you can use these things to help push things, I guess the word is push things along, to push these things along, okay? So when it comes to essential oils, there are a couple. There's like clary sage, there's geranium. Those are good hormone balancers. And if you make, I always talk about, when I talk about essential oils, you get like a carrier oil, like fractionated coconut oil, or you could do olive oil. You could do any kind of oil base and put like some drops in there, like in maybe a 1 ounce container, and then maybe put some drops and then rub them on your belly, like right over like your uterus, like your lower abdomen area. If you're going to be doing hormone balancing, that's where you want it to go, okay? And then things like, I said how sometimes like trying to have a baby can be a stressful situation, like, am I ovulating, am I not ovulating, do I have sex now, do I not have sex now, like what do I do? So, things like ylang ylang, lavender, jasmine, rose are other really good essential oils that will help kind of calm, make you feel sexy, make you feel really, really wonderful, okay? So those are, you can make a linen spray, you can make like a little perfume spray for you, like put like some distilled water. Usually you have to put like either witch hazel or alcohol a little bit in it just to kind of preserve it. You can spray it on your body, do like a body spray, or you can get like a little roll-on bottle and you put like the fractionated coconut oil and mix it in there and make like a little perfume and put it on your hair, put it behind your ears so that you're smelling it every day and you're relaxed and you're feeling wonderful. So those are other kind of essential oils that can help. So that's it for this evening. I just wanted to, hopefully everything made sense, okay? As with everything, I'm always just starting off with the basics with everything. So we went over our menstrual cycle, what's going on in our menstrual cycle. Then we were talking about what about all the other cool things our body's doing for when we're ovulating, just trying to like, hey, I'm trying to get pregnant here. That's what your pelvis region is saying. I'm trying to get pregnant. Don't get in my way. Every month, okay? We talked about how to figure out if we're ovulating. Sorry. Hold on. Even a cough drop's not helping me right now. But anyway, how to figure out if we're getting ovulated. And then some medical conditions that can cause us to have issues. And then sort of kind of what we can do. I know it wasn't a complete, extensive talk about what we can do because there's so many things that can cause us to have problems with getting pregnant. It would take me all night long to go over all of them. I'm so sorry. But hopefully I give you a good starting ground. If you have any other questions, please make sure that you post them on this underneath here. I will definitely still see them. Or if you have a private message, you can always private message me on our Facebook page. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. I do hope that this totally helped you. I'm really happy to be back into the swing of things. So I'm going to be seeing you next week. I don't remember what the topic is next week, but well, definitely, I got to get back on track. I know I took off a couple of weeks, and I do apologize for that. But we're going to get back onto the swing of things, and we're going to get ready for 2018. Can you believe it, everybody? 2018. So I'm very excited about that. So again, I hope this show was enjoyable. I hope that it just sparked your mind a little bit about what's going on in our bodies, which are so amazing, and how what's going on when we're getting pregnant. And if you are having problems, just giving you a little starting ground of what you can do to hopefully start getting pregnant, if that's what you want to do. Thank you so much, everyone, for showing up. Thank you, Nicole, Mary Ellen, Matt, Nancy, Fiona. Hello, Fiona. It's so great to see you. Megan, thank you, too. I see a lot of people here. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I saw Amy out there as well. I saw Matt out there. There's a whole bunch of people that I saw. So thank you so much, everyone, for showing up. And I'm going to see you next Monday at 8 p.m. You know, I come on at 7:50, 10 minutes before. And we'll see you next week, everybody. Take care, everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.